I think we can all agree that when it comes to the Beatles, the second half of their discography is the most interesting part. Not because the first one is bad, but simply because albums like Revolver, Sgt. Pepper, and Abbey Road are some of the greatest albums ever made. However, I feel like a lot of people tend to forget just how good the band's early albums were, so today, I want to talk about the last album they made before their big shift in sound, the one and only Help. This is an album that saw the band ready for bigger things. They were desperate to leave Beatlemania behind and focus on more interesting songwriting practices. However, because they were still performing live, they couldn't do anything too crazy. Because of this, Help was originally supposed to be just another rock and roll odyssey, similar to A Hard Day's Night, but when the time came to record, it became clear that for the boys, there was no turning back. Although at first sight this album is not too different from the previous one, small details in the instrumentation and lyricism showed how much more mature their talent was. John Lennon, for example, was writing some of his most personal lyrics in the title track, and the instrumentation of songs like Ticket to Ride preluded the heavy nature of music in the late 60s. Songs like I Need You was the first time George Harrison's songwriting was on par with the other two, and things like the volume pedal saw the band's sound palette expand into new territory. And then of course you can't talk about this album without mentioning the most covered song of all time, a song that was seen as a rarity at the time because it was released by a rock and roll band and is often seen as Paul McCartney's best, the timeless classic Yesterday. Even though Rubber Soul was definitely the first chapter in the band's experimental journey, Help laid the foundations for the journey to take place, and it just so happens to be an incredibly enjoyable album too. So the next time someone says that the Beatlemania era of the Beatles was not interesting, show them this album and watch them go silent.